We honor America with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. First order of business is public comment. Anyone wishing to comment on something not on the agenda?
Richard Treat speaking, 8 Lyman Road. I hope this is, I know the first item isn't on the agenda. I would like to thank you all, especially you, Bob, because I've needed you the most, about the cutting of the brush back here, which has been done, and I hope you think it's as big an improvement as I do. I have one additional request. There are left, in the absence of the brush, 6 or 8 metal fence posts. And unless you get those out of there, they get hidden in the growth that comes back every year. And when you go in there with a bush hog, you're at best in danger of ruining the machine. At worst, it throws one of them. So I would request your permission for me to remove those. They're just metal fence posts, but they're substantial. They'll come out, but if they're left there, then all the work that you all got to happen won't be easily maintainable in the year to come.
Well, we can assure you they will be removed.
Oh, they will?
They will.
Well, I'll be back to meet you if they don't get removed.
I wouldn't say that not knowing you wouldn't.
You know, I'm known in the office as Joyce's favorite pain in the ass. I'm probably getting
Come see me.
I'm probably getting to be known as the Board of Selectmen's favorite pain in the ass. My next question is, I suspect that great things are happening down at the barn, but I don't know this. So I ask you all, as a whole board, I hope, to go down there and tour what's going on, get Prue's guys to show you what they've done, maybe Prue himself, and then I'd like to hear what you've learned, because my heart is in that place. I hope a lot of your hearts are in that place, and you need to see it. And when you see it, I need to know what you've seen. So that's my second request.
And with that, my offer still stands.
That's a good offer, and I will take you up on it.
Okay.
What's the offer?
Lead me by the hand on a tour over there.
Well, could we all just do it as a group?
That
Well,
would
if
be a
you have a
lot.
special meeting for all of you.
That's okay.
But
Well-
trying to coordinate dates and times,
This is easier if a
That's
few of
not
us will
gonna-
go through it at a time.
yeah. It'd be far easier to.
Well, I think I feel good things are happening, and we all need to know, you all and all of us out here, so I hope you'll get to that soon. Thank you.
Joyce, will you just let us all know whenever you're going to be going?
Oh, I go down there periodically to just check on things, as does John.
As do I, but I'd like to be there with others.
Oh, I've never taken anybody else, so,
Well, your offer was just to take Richard, so
but
if
that
you...
was
if you
right
all-
after, that he wanted to know how the ice blasting testing went.
Oh, okay.
So based on, thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you for listening.
if there are no other public comment, we're going to go on to item 3A, which is we have a series of,
I'm going back to the church.
okay.
Golly.
Put a little prayer in for our budget, will you, while you're there? Thank you.
I'm putting a prayer in for our own budget.
Okay. Item 6A, 3A, which is the approval of the January 26th budget workshop. Someone,
So move.
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections?
I have a correction. In paragraph 2, last line, emerald ash box should be emerald ash borer
Borer.
disease.
Wait a minute.
Right here, under number 2, discussion.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's a boar, it's a nasty
Yes.
little beetle.
Yes, it is. I think that was, didn't read my
So,
take.
so noted,
Yep.
Yeah, okay, the motion and the second made that correction. Okay, if there are no other additions or corrections, all in favor of adopting these minutes as corrected, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Item 3B, which is the minutes of the February 2nd regular meeting.
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Just for discussion, these are, there's lengthy, I don't know if anyone has any additional
I-
comments
I
or
do.
corrections? Okay. Sandy?
Page 3, item F,
Wait a minute, let me catch up. 3F,
second paragraph from the bottom.
yep.
Mike Aramita moved that it be the policy that Ethics Committee members shall not be past or present members of any town board.
I was going to bring it up too, Sandy.
I don't believe past should be there.
I don't
No,
either.
it's present.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be present.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that when I was reading it earlier and was going to bring it up myself.
Anything else? If not, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as corrected, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 3C is the minutes of a special meeting and held on February 4th.
Move to accept.
Second.
Comments? Pretty brief. Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we're on 3D, which is another workshop budget that was held on February 9th. Will someone move the adoption of those minutes, please?
So move.
I'll second.
Second it. Anyone have any additions or corrections on these sets? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, motion carries. 3E, February 16th, again, special meeting.
So move.
Second.
Any very brief, any additions?
I would
Comments?
just like to ask that, since in paragraph 2, we specifically mention attachment A, that attachment A be attached to the minutes. It was not attached to the minutes as distributed.
Okay. So noted, we'll attach it when we submit
It is attached to
the,
the minutes that were submitted to the town clerk.
okay.
I didn't find them today on the website.
The website, it might not be attached, but it is attached to the minutes
I
that were
would
submitted
request that it be
to
attached to the
the
minutes
town
on the
clerk.
website.
And that, for you, we usually don't attach attachments that you've already received. But if the wish is that we could reattach attachments you already have, we will do that.
Well, in my case, I had asked Heidi for it because I didn't have an electronic copy.
Okay.
So it is nice to have everything electronically as well as in paper form.
So noted. So all in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, and attachments will be attached to the attachment was filed. Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 6, I like 6 number. 3F,
3F and 3G, I would suggest that you postpone because you just got these.
yeah, we haven't had a chance to,
So you
so if we
postpone.
table them to our
Not table, postpone
Postpone it.
any action
action
until
on
your next
our
meeting.
next meeting, which will be the 8th.
Well, or your next regular meeting is the end
Whatever,
of
we
March.
can deal with them at either one. Someone want to move that?
So
No,
move.
you don't need to move it. You're just, by consensus, you're
You all
agreeing
set?
to
Okay.
postpone.
Okay.
Everybody good with that? Okay. So go right on to correspondence then.
No.
Nothing? Okay, I'm just checking. Didn't see any. New business. We asked our emergency manager, our director here, to share with us some, what all's been going on our system. And Jim,
So thank you for asking me to be here.
you have to come up to the mic.
Happy to be here to discuss the Everbridge system with you. I think it's important that you all know that the heavy lifting on this system was done a couple of years ago. You know, we initially purchased the system, and Joyce and I spent some months actually working with Everbridge and building the system and tailoring it to Bolton. Once that system was constructed to that point, part of our contract with Everbridge was to upload all of the information from the phone book for Bolton listing. So at that point in time, we captured almost 1,500 phone numbers based on what was listed, what we had for listed phone numbers for individuals and businesses in the town of Bolton. At that point, the system became usable. It wasn't refined, but it was usable, and we did some small-scale testing, and we were able to operate that system from that point forward. What we've done most recently is the second phase of implementing the Everbridge system, which is to create a customer care portal, which we've done, and we've advertised that customer care portal. We did so by putting out a message on Everbridge. We learned a lot of things from that message. We got some great feedback. Not all of it was positive, but it was good feedback so that we could learn some things from it. We have sent a notice home through the school system. There has been, it's been on the town website. It's gone out in the Bolton Bulletin. And hopefully it's getting out there also by word of mouth and, you know, other venues of, you know, people's communication. As of this morning, when I looked, we had 246 individuals opt into the system. So the advantage of getting people to go into the system and put their own information in is, you know, a couple of things. First of all, we recognize that in this day and age, not everybody has a home phone. There are some people, especially people that are my kids' age, that don't have home phones. They only operate with a cell phone today. So it's important that we try to capture that information. We also see the value in having multiple methods of communication. Hopefully, all of you have had the opportunity to go in and look at the system, and if you haven't, I would encourage you to do so. So the things that you can do is you can sign up and you can prioritize your methods of communication, whether it's your cell phone first, your home phone first, email address, text messaging. And one of the advantages with text messaging in particular, we've learned from past emergencies that text messaging works when many other systems do not. So we've done that. We've done a little bit of additional testing. The other things we've done is we have done some training at the library with the staff at the library, recognizing that some of our town residents only access the internet from the library. We also have a couple of flyers that have been posted at the library. We did similar training with the staff at the senior center. And I talked with Jen Ochoa there yesterday, and she's having good success. They're actually talking about it at their meetings and gatherings, and they're sitting down with the seniors that go visit the senior center, and they're actually helping them sign up. So we're getting some really good input there. And the other thing is, if you've gone on to that system and you have looked at it, you'll notice that there is a place that you can indicate that you're an at-risk citizen. Now, an at-risk citizen is a term that we coined, some time back during one of our emergencies. We learned the value that there are individuals in our community that may have some special needs that, put them at greater risk than the average citizen. It could be that they're medically dependent on electricity. It could be that they're elderly, they're shut in, they have no family nearby. So we actually have a paper list that we created some years ago, and we continually look at that, at least on an annual basis. That list is compiled of residents that, we have recognized, and we ask them if we can put them on this list. And the way that we gather that information is, first of all, from Senior and Social Services, Fire Department, and believe it or not, our assessor's office, because they see a lot of individuals. In fact, some of these folks that can't get out of their own homes get people from the assessor's office to visit them for certain business that they need to attend to. So we've compiled that list and what we actually do with that list is, in the case of an emergency, we physically call every one of those individuals. So the hope is that we've maybe captured some individuals through the opt-in that we haven't captured, by just knowing them as town employees or residents of the town. So here's where we're at. We have about 2,000 contacts in our Everbridge system that if we were to send an emergency message out, we would be contacting. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. We can go in and we can type a message and we can send it out to all of the individuals that we've captured information for. So that would essentially be everybody who's opted in, everybody that we've captured information from listed phone numbers in the Bolton section of the phone book. The other thing we can do is we can actually pull up a map of Bolton, and we can choose a geographical area by drawing a shape around it, whether it's a box, a square, a diamond, or whatever it happens to be. And here's a for instance for you. Let's say that 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a tractor trailer going down Route 85. It's carrying methyl ethyl bad stuff. It tips over, and we look at the handbook, and the handbook tells us we need to evacuate a half a mile around the spill. So we can actually go into the Everbridge system, and we can draw a circle around that spill. We probably would go a little bigger than a half a mile, and we can notify all the residents within that area that somebody will be coming to help them evacuate, or whatever our emergency message has to be. So that's where we're currently at, and we are looking at continuing our advertising program to get people to continue to sign up. The other thing that we are going to be looking to do is to actually create some policies as to how we're going to utilize the system. So the other things it could be used for is we could create a user group. And where we maybe see some value in creating a user group where we just identify a user group. For instance, the Board of Selectmen could be a user group. But right now we have effective methods of communication to reach the Board of Selectmen. We have effective methods of communication to reach all town employees. We have effective methods of communication to reach individual departments within the town. The one place where it gets a little bit more cumbersome for us is when we have an actual emergency and we try to call a unified command meeting, because now we're calling individuals from a bunch of different groups. We're calling individuals from the town, we're calling individuals from the school system, from the fire department, from the fire marshal's office, from Senior and Social Services. So we're crossing all of those lines. And we might look to set up a users group for our unified command staff so that it would be simple for us to put in a simple message and reach all of them quickly. And we probably wouldn't do that necessarily for our initial communication with them, but would probably look to do that for follow-up meetings if we had a long-term emergency. The other thing that we're looking to do is, Joyce and I have talked, and we're probably looking at doing some testing, probably like on a quarterly basis, just so that we're using the system, we're familiar with the system. We've also tested it to know that we can access the system and utilize the system off-site. So if Joyce was not here, she was at home, couldn't get here, I was at home, couldn't get here for some reason. We have the systems in place that we can actually do it from wherever we're at. We understand that there's an app potentially available. We haven't looked at that yet, but that's something that we might be looking to do, is to see if that works on our devices, and it may be an easier way to access it for us remotely. That's pretty much a big picture overview of where we're at. We're pretty near completion, although we want to continue to capture individuals that will opt in. We're really pretty near completion with phase 2 of our process. I'll answer any questions if I can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike, you're the expert here.
Well, no, you kind of alluded to my first question with the remote access from different locations and the methyl ethyl badge stuff kind of thing. Who has access should they need it?
Currently-
For an example like that.
Currently, it's Joyce and I that have access. The fire chief knows that we have this system in place, and we've had some conversations with him about situations that it might be used in. For instance, one of the things that we discussed is we had a very bad car wreck here on Route 6 on Christmas Day. That might have been a time that we could have utilized the system to notify people that Route 6 was going to be closed for a significant period of time.
We actually have 2 other staff people trained right now that could go in and do it as well, besides the 2 of us,
I would just,
that we're trying to spread it wide.
yeah, I would broaden that to, members of the fire department or the fire marshal kind of thing, only because they would be notified and be intimately involved in an incident where evacuation might be necessary. And if they could access it, like you said, there's remote access, they could access it from the fire department. The fire marshal would be a good example of a person that would be, there's 3 of them. There's usually 1 available all the time. Those would be good people to bring
Yeah.
into it.
Which Jim is one of them.
So that would, I'm pleased to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there are, so I guess my answer really wasn't quite correct. There are 4 individuals who are trained. Right now, 2 of them are decision makers. So there are 2 of them that would input what they were asked to input. Right now, Joyce and I would have the ability to decide what was put on the system and put it there. But we do have other individuals that are trained.
Jim, I wanted to thank you for all your hard work on that, and you too, Joyce. When the initial sign-up came out, I understand there were some bugaboos with it, and one of them that I noticed said, "This is a message from your organization." Will future messages say,
We have
"This is a
corrected
message
that.
for the town of Bolton"?
We have corrected that.
Excellent.
And that was one of the reasons it was great to be able to do that testing and get feedback. And that's why I said, not all of the feedback was positive, but in a way it really was, because we needed to know that.
Yeah.
Because we weren't actually getting the tests ourselves, or we weren't paying attention to them, because we were actually running the tests. So what we did after that is we learned that we could test it to 1 device. So we picked out me, and so we were actually testing to my cell phone, so we could determine what was actually going out. Then I know there was a lot of confusion about this phone number that people kept getting. So let me explain a little bit about the system. The system is designed, when it calls you, to make sure that it reaches you. And we have an option when we put a message in to receive notification back that you've actually gotten that message. And we were clicking on that because we kind of wanted to know what our audience was and whether or not we were getting feedback. So what you heard on the other end, if you were picking up a phone, is a bunch of numbers. They wanted you to call a phone number, a very lengthy phone number, and then key in some other number to essentially say that you got the message. We've learned that that is not effective. So in our future messages, we probably will not do that. On the other hand, if we set up a users group for the unified command system, we're going to want to know that they got our messages, and that they're going to show up to the unified command meeting. so we would probably click on that option. But for most times, it is unlikely that we would exercise that in the future. It's interesting that also, if you opt to get it by text message or email, it's a lot simpler. You just click on a button, and it notifies the Everbridge system that you've gotten the message.
I think this is great that this is finally underway, and I think 1,700 or so numbers is pretty good, but it sounds like we really need to make a push to get more cell phone numbers in. So, and you had mentioned that you're going to keep taking some more steps. When are you going to, could you tell me again what kind of steps you're going to take to try to get more cell phones?
So currently, we have put up flyers at the senior center, we put up flyers at the library. We have sent out a notification through the school system, and I believe that that's going out through the entire school system. We have put it on the Bolton Bulletin. We've actually talked about it on the town administrator's show. So there has been a lot of information out there about it. I'm frankly surprised that we haven't gotten more than 246 individuals. But I think what we have to remember is that those individuals probably that haven't signed up and opted in probably have a home phone number and were contacted and maybe saying, well, I'm already signed up. They called me once, and that's okay for me.
It could also be, often people need to be asked a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to put that message out there as often as we can. I mean, right now, the best venues that we have to reach everybody are the town website and the Bolton Bulletin, aside from the flyers that we have up. You know, keep mentioning it at the senior center. You know, I know that Jen has been very proactive. You know, she said to me, I'm asking them to come with me, and I'm sitting them down at the computer, and I'm going through it. Me and my staff are going through it with them, and we're getting them signed up. So if you have any other ideas, I'm certainly open to hearing them. I don't want to be narrow-minded and say that's all we can do, but right now, that's all we can think to do.
Well, I would say to put it in the Bolton Bulletin a number of times, like every other month.
Yeah, and that is our
or
plan.
a year or something
We've
like
actually
that.
been putting it in like every other issue, so that it's not old, but you'll see it again, hopefully.
Is this,
Jim, do you have any flyers here at the town hall that people can come in and get?
I don't have one that they can come in and get, but that's certainly something, we have some that we've created, that's certainly something they could do.
Okay.
Do you mind saying?
go ahead.
Okay. Other ideas, the nursery schools, because that targets the parents of the preschoolers, and they're in the age group that don't
Yep.
carry anything but a cell phone.
Sure.
My son and daughter-in-law and friends that I know through that, for the nursery schools we have in town, and also the churches. I would think that the church groups would be great to hand that out on a Sunday morning a couple of times in the next year or so.
Sure.
To catch the people that don't go to other places in town.
Good ideas.
And Joyce, is that an allowable stuffer in our tax bills?
It might be, but all of that will also depend if we do our tax bills
Oh,
or
that's
if
true.
they do our tax bills. So that's the other, and
Let's
I
say
don't
it
know
could
what,
be.
and I don't know the weight where we are now, if they'll kick it up to the next postage level or not either, so.
And I would encourage any of you, if you have any other ideas about, you know, ways that we can get that message out, you know, give me a call, email me anytime. I'm happy to listen, and, you know, our goal is to, you know, continue to build and improve the notification system. And, you know, as I said, we're looking at quarterly testing, simply because we want to test the system. We want people to be familiar with getting those messages, so that in the case of an emergency, you know, they're familiar with it. But we don't want to over-test it so that people say, oh, it's just another message from that system, I'm going to ignore it. So that's why we're thinking quarterly is probably a good idea. Plus, we have a quarterly test of our high-band radio system with Demis, and we'll probably just tie it in at the same time. It'll be a reminder to us to put the Everbridge test out there.
Shoot.
Sure.
Sure. We'll have to share the mic, Bert.
Hey, I have to see if Bert signed
I
up.
gotta see, Bert, who's running the camera now, Bert?
Bert Flynn, 191 Human Road. I know we are on the system because several months ago we got a message,
Yes.
one of those, your organization
Yes.
message. You also mentioned about signing up. We only have a home phone system, you know?
Yep.
So I would take it that we would only have to sign up if we wanted to put a cell phone on, or if we wanted text, or
Email.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
And the other reason to consider going into the system is if you feel that you're an at-risk citizen and would like us to check up on you in the case of an emergency.
Okay, understood.
That would be the other reason. So, and I think that that's a perfect example of why we're maybe not getting as many people to opt in, is because I already know I'm on the system, it's working, do I need to do any more?
Right.
And that, maybe is a good clue for us to maybe improve our marketing and say that, look, these are other reasons to consider coming in and putting your personal preferences in.
Okay. My second question is, if I wasn't home, or if I was outside and a message came in, does the system allow for a message to be taken on an answering machine?
It does, and it will call you 3 times. If you or the answering machine doesn't answer the phone, it's going to call you a total of 3 times.
One after another, or different spaced
It's
out?
going to space it out a little bit, but it's pretty much one after the other, but it's probably over a 15 or 20-minute time period.
Okay. All right, good.
But and here's, the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management here in Connecticut uses the Everbridge system to notify emergency management. They also use it sometimes when they send us an important email, so that they know we've received the email. We have to click on it and say, we got it. And I know that the messaging system works because Demis has my home phone, my cell phone, my work phone, and my email address, and my personal email address. And if I'm out here working at the Emergency Operations Center and they send me a message and I don't pick it up, I get 3 messages on my email, 3 messages on my personal email, 3 messages on my home phone, 3 messages on my cell phone, and 3 messages on my work phone. So the system really does try to reach out and make sure that it gets a hold of the 2,000 individuals that we have captured phone numbers for.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Good questions.
Do you have does the system tell you how many of the 1,500 white pages numbers are actually active numbers?
I don't know that. What I can tell you is, and this is a question that we are going to answer, because I know that they were all operational at the time that we put them in. The question I don't know the answer to, and it has crossed my mind, is, has Everbridge gone back and cross-checked the system, updated the system, since they initially captured that data and put it in?
What year was that?
2013 or 14?
14, I think.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. That
It would be
sounds-
good, it seems like the system should be able to tell you which ones are active numbers and which ones are not.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way for me to know that from looking at the system. I think, to me, what I think is more important is that, sort of annually, when the new phone book comes out, that the system be updated. I mean, we do that with all of our other systems here in Town Hall, when we have new information, whether it's, on the view permit system, or, when people, transfer real estate, we update all of those systems on some sort of a frequency. And I think that's really important to make sure is happening. And that is something I thought about today, and I don't know the answer to that. But it is something on my list to chat with Everbridge about and find out whether or not they have updated that since the original data input.
Do we have something in place here so we can update when there's a real estate transfer?
Not into the Everbridge system, only within our connected systems in Town Hall. And that transfers, from the town clerk's office down to the assessor's database and then into the view permit system. We have methods to be able to update all of those, but to communicate with the Everbridge system, it is not in place. But it's also a good.
Something I think that
It's
should
also,
be investigated.
it's also
or
a
thought
good
about.
reason that we should always keep this message out there, is because we know that properties change and people move in and out of town, and it would be important to make sure that we're able to notify the newcomers as well.
Yeah, the key is to capture the new people coming in. Because if someone goes and their number gets taken off, that's fine. If Everbridge sends a number out that doesn't need a response, it does. The key component is
Capturing the new.
capture the new person coming in. And that's, when maybe a new person comes and gets their garbage can or something like that.
They're left. I mean,
Right,
that's,
they're left.
it's not
yeah.
even,
And that's
we
basically.
don't even know
Right.
when.
The only time that happens is on a new home.
Yeah, but we can do that with new homes. When we
Right.
issue COs, we can give them a sign-up sheet.
Right.
Here's some information, and maybe there's some way we can look at doing something with the transfer reports and, trying to find an appropriate way to contact those individuals.
Well, I think we're going in the right direction. I think this is a really good system, and it sounds like it can be continually modified.
Well, I think what'll happen is, as we utilize the system more, we may find other ways, for it to be useful, as a useful tool.
Well, thank you, Jim. I don't know if anybody else has any
Thank
other
you, Jim.
questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Right.
Charter Oak Greenway Shared Pathway, I'm going to have our two attendees give a comment. I just want to do a brief comment from the committee side, that the committee has met since the last time it was discussed, and all of the board members did receive the packet of comments that were assembled, on either all those who had questions, all those who supported, all those who had issues with the proposed bike trail, as well as the committee. With all that, we met, and we've basically, any final comments have been given to BSC, and we're waiting for their final report. Also in that process, we've going ahead with the contract to do the survey along the way. We had to do a slight tweaking on it based on suggestions made at our past meeting, as far as getting the reports back that we want. Anticipate that'll be all done by next week, so that'll be going forward. And I know Gwen and I know Mike attended the meeting this past Monday, so,
And Bob?
and Bob.
Sandy,
So-
both there.
And Sandy. Well, I'll start, well, Gwen's on the bike path trail, so I'll start with you if you don't
Sure,
mind.
this was last night, actually. It was
Right.
there were probably close to 90 people at the event called Tales of the Trails, and it was a forum. The main speaker was Craig Della Penna of Northampton, Massachusetts. He owns a historic bed and breakfast that's located about 8 feet from a rail trail, and his comments were mostly focused on railroad beds that had been converted to multi-use paths. And it was very interesting because he showed a lot of different examples. He spoke a lot about the economic benefits of that trails can bring to communities. He addressed some concerns that we've heard here from some of the residents who are concerned about the trail segment that is proposed for along Route 44. The forum did not focus on that trail segment, although there was one question that was directed to me about what is the status of that trail segment, and I just brought everybody up to speed on
Can I thank you for that?
Sure, yeah. So I just thought it was a very positive environment. There, Senator Cassano was there and spoke a little bit. Will Britnell, who is the lead person on the DOT trail design team, was there, and he addressed a little bit about the work that is going into designing the section between Notch Pond and Quarry Road, and that is moving along, and he does have a a possible proposed location for that, which I think we'll be hearing about, I don't know, in a few months, I think. So I thought it was all around a very interesting evening, and the trails were approached from a lot of different angles, and I think it was a good way to share a lot of good information.
Sandy, you have any comments?
No.
Okay.
Good summary, Gwen.
Yeah, I had pretty much the same feeling that you did out of it. I was a little disappointed because it focused mostly on the rail, as he referred to, the dead railroad beds, and not the ones that are going along roads, because seems to be the newer thing, moving away from the rail trails. Although I personally like the rail trails better, because when I'm riding them, I like to get out where it's quiet and the scenery and everything. I'm not so thrilled about riding along Route 6 or Route 44. Even the one that goes through Manchester is nice, but it's right along the highway. It's not a private kind of thing. So I appreciate the rail to trails more, and I ride the one over to Vernon because my in-laws back up to the rail trail in Vernon. So I have some knowledge as to, the effect that it had on them. And it had no effect on them, no break-ins, nothing like that. But they also knew that there was a rail trail when they bought their home, or there was a proposed rail trail when they purchased their home, and the railroad bed was behind them. So they knew what they were getting into. What I thought was a little lacking last night, and the gentleman was right up front and honest, he doesn't deal specifically with putting trails in people's front yards along the road like 44 would be. And that was what I was hoping to hear about, was the economic impact and some history on that, which I didn't get from that last night. And I don't know if that's why nobody spoke on those. I didn't hear anybody speak negatively last night at all. So I guess the people who spoke here negatively weren't there or didn't ask the questions because the resource wasn't there to answer the question. But that was that's what I wanted to hear when I went there, was, anything that would pertain to how it would come across if, a house on 44 with a 60-foot frontage and they put a 10-foot either marked path or gravel path across the front yard, how that would affect those people. And so that I'm still waiting to hear, to get some input on that. But aside from that, it was an interesting evening. I enjoyed myself, getting the information out and seeing where the trails are and how extensive it is, really. It's a fairly big project on the East Coast. And, especially in Massachusetts. And, as Bob can attest, Cape Cod has been for years, the place to go if you want to ride bikes on a nice, well-established trail bed kind of thing. But it was an interesting evening. I'm glad I went.
I thought it was very interesting. I was a little surprised, though, when the gentleman says, like, he lives in Massachusetts, and he didn't mention at all about the bike trail on the Cape, which is a big, big thing. And I thought for sure he would at least mention that, but maybe he forgot or wasn't sure. But I was amazed at how many people, the gentleman mentioned how many people use these bike paths. I think the guy said over 300,000 people.
In the Farmington Valley.
Farmington, and I thought that was amazing, that many people doing this, and, I think it's a great thing. If any of you go up to the Cape in the summertime or in the spring, you'll see the people riding the bike paths and walking. And it's great. I think the path is roughly about 10 feet wide, and it goes right behind some of the restaurants. And I've seen people in the summertime get off their bikes. They have a bike rack there behind this restaurant up there, and they go and have lunch, and they come out and go back on the bike trail again, which now I believe goes all the way to almost to Provincetown.
I think it does.
So it's really a big thing.
And I do see that potential for our Route 44 corridor, if that is developed in a way that has destinations like coffee shop, bank, other little shops, and once the trail comes all the way through, I really do see people bicycling to those shops and putting their bike in a bike rack and then doing their shopping and then biking back. So I think we've got a lot of potential right there on 44.
The Farmington Valley is very popular, and think about it. It's the valley. If I were riding a bike, I'm a wuss. I'd like it relatively level as opposed to running the hills of eastern Connecticut, so.
The Cape is very good for you.
Very
and I when it comes to that.
There's no hills in the Cape.
No, I know that. That's kind of like you just go. I mean, there's probably, every mile is a half-inch elevation or a foot. Right.
I'd love to see a way that we could actually make better access to the trails. That is something that was brought up last night, and like for me to get to the one at Highland Park, going down Camp Meeting and 85, it's not there's no good way to get there other than take my bike on a car or the back of my truck, you know, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole idea, you know.
I think when our segment, our Bolton segment gets tied in, that's going to really make an improvement, at least get it over to this side of Route 6, where, you know, right now that 384 is pretty much the divider. And that'll at least help that, so we're working that way. Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Unless you have no other comments, I'm going to go on to the Lower Bolton Lake status. And before I have Kim or any comments, just to mention that George will be having an informational meeting on March 30th. And I don't know, do we have a place yet? Or is it going to be here?
Town Hall.
Be here, okay. And obviously, we'll be putting that out
What time will that be?
7.
7 o'clock, sorry. And update us on his, you know, what he's learned so far, and, you know, hopefully we're going from here. Kim, do you have anything you'd like to share with us? Sure. I know you love to come up and speak.
Kim Welch, 51 Vernon Road, Lake Commissioner 2. The ice is out, it would be my other comment.
Yeah, it went
that
quick
went out
this year.
very rapidly during that violent storm we had last Wednesday. So that's good. The water doesn't look great, but it doesn't look poor. It's kind of cautiously optimistic, I guess was what we would call it. And then catfish stocking, the Lake Association is wondering if we're going to get together with the fisheries folks to discuss that as well, and I just wasn't sure of
Yeah,
the
they're supposed
status
to be
of
coming
that.
back to us
Yeah.
end of the month as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if that was something that Gail is going to coordinate, or if I
She
can help
wanted
with
to
that.
coordinate
Yeah.
again, so.
Should I
and
contact
based-
her, or? will
I
you
think based
decide?
on her schedule with the legislature right now, I think it's on her docket, but I think she's trying to see when hearings are on different things.
Okay, to place.
Try to come out
Yep,
with some
with a
dates.
date, okay.
But, I mean, she
All right,
would,
so,
Gail wouldn't mind you just texting her to find
Okay.
out. so
okay,
feel
I
free.
can just put an email out to her or something.
Yeah, yeah, this way she'll get it to you.
Raise
and-
the level of priority maybe for her. Who knows?
No,
So I can
I'll
do
give her a
that.
call as well for you, on
Yeah.
your behalf.
That's fine, I can shoot her an email, I
Okay.
don't have a problem doing that. I think that's about it, unless anyone has any questions.
That's good.
please.
I'm curious, have you seen the eagles around this year at all?
I haven't seen a lot of the eagles, and the way that we can kind of see that the eagles are around is the gulls and geese aren't around, and they've been
Right.
around a lot. So that's a quick indicator for us that live on the lake. If the gulls and the geese aren't around, the eagle's out.
Eagles here. Okay.
So the eagles definitely trump the others.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other smaller birds have been more frequent than in the past. So
That's probably why the eagles probably had a lot of good.
yeah, he's probably had a lot of other areas to feed in this year, which
Right.
is what my assumption was as well,
Yeah.
because I'm sure that we're not the only place that didn't freeze over entirely for a long period of time. So they've been probably in warmer air, to be honest.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In the packet is our monthly budget report. Joyce, anything there that,
We're 56.34% expense compared to 57.21% last year. Obviously, with the winter, we haven't yet had the need to be purchasing as much sand and salt as we've been going along, although we still are purchasing and have those minimums to honor, but that's probably part of what figures into here.
and with that regards, what we'll do at the end of the year is stockpile, so that we have a heavy stockpile rolling into next year.
That's on, our stockpile's undercover, right?
Yes. Well, the salt is undercover and the salt sand mix is undercover. The only thing that's not is pure sand. Pure sand is just stacked in.
Just piled.
It's piled.
Is there a problem with erosion over there? We're off-
No, because it's high and it's geared in such a way that everything flows around. It doesn't flow through it. No, it's worked very well in the way that we built the buildings and sloped everything, so, no.
And the basin to catch.
And we do have a basin, just in case. And then we scoop that out with our payloader, so the basin's always workable. Any other comments, questions? Okay, move on to FY 17 budget. Well, we can talk about LoSiP. That, we did get our, what we have this year, and it looks like it is sufficient to do our garage and removal and everything. So, we'll be getting more details on that at our budget meeting.
Could you remind me of the details on that? About what-
Oh,
The addition onto the
the
town
addition of the town
garage.
garage and the removal of the old
Garage.
brick garage that was collapsing, we were looking at doing it, utilizing purely LoSiP funds. And we
The LoSiP report just came out this afternoon.
literally came out this afternoon. I was up here and bam, it came, and basically, I had asked John to get preliminary estimates of building removal and construction, and the numbers are like within $1,000. It's
Very close.
very
So
close.
what's the cost of doing that work?
It's about $400,000.
And is the LoSiP money that we accumulate
Yes.
over the years
Yes.
until we want to use
Until
it?
there's a project. This has been, we've been working towards this project, and, you
So
know.
how many years did it take to accumulate 400,000?
11.
I was gonna say 10, but, yeah, it'll be 11.
Okay.
So, yeah, it takes, it's one of these, and the way the state's going in the future, I think that's gonna get whacked pretty heavy. So it's either do your project now or, you know, there's not gonna be those type of, even though they're moderate increases per year, obviously, it took 11 years to get that amount. But,
And what kind of projects qualify for the use of those funds?
well, they're
Capital improvement.
capital
Capital
improvements,
improvements, but not schools.
not schools. They're
The
not
only thing that you
school-related.
can do for schools is extremely limited, and it's not capital.
Right. One of the issues, why we started to move forward this year is when we gave Mike a tour of the existing old garage. The fact that the roof leaks like a sieve is okay, might be able to live with that, but the building is actually starting to separate. It really is at a point of, and we're lucky this year, we did not get one of these major snowfalls, but we can't be lucky anymore. I mean,
I think it's even worse than that. I don't think the building's safe to stand in.
well,
If I got a pretty decent history in construction, and the way the cracks on the front of the building, it's separating, and it's dangerous to be around. Whether we build a new garage to replace the storage space is a totally different factor, but we definitely have to take that down.
and
That's a danger to be in, and then we have to find a place to put the equipment that's inside it. But
that is packed full, so it's,
whether we build it or not, we definitely have to spend the money to tear that down and get rid of it.
and this is a way of doing it, that's why you save it up without impacting the tax budget.
And like, the history of it, back when your dad and I.
Yes, I get reminded of
fought
that a
against
lot.
you to add that extra bay on the garage and save that one.
Yeah.
The original plan for the garage that you presented had the additional space where that
Yeah.
building sits now.
We didn't have the money.
And we did without it for 25 years because that building survived.
The original building was built by LoSiP in that So, it's 20 years ago,
More
It's,
than that?
it's more than
more
that.
than that. So it tells you.
It was 1988 or 87 when you brought in the request for the garage and we fought you on it.
Yeah, 89. It was 89, I think.
Yeah, it would have been, because I moved in
It was
88.
89, it was in 89. So just, it goes back that far. And that building was built in around 1950. And it was, a lot of it was done by local labor, type thing. So it was, built pretty well. But, it is probably 66 years old, and this building was never meant to survive that long. But my...
Foundation is giving way under it, it looks by
Yeah,
the
well,
cracks.
it served its purpose. It gave us another 20 years before and allowed us to actually accumulate the funds to do it again. And based on our history, what we do here will provide us what we need for the next 20 years. So, pretty good use of funds.
Yep.
I have a question on the budget. I'm still missing the debt service pages from my budget. Am I the only person? Or is it?
You haven't seen debt service at all, because until we got numbers from the school, even on Columbia students, we couldn't do any debt service.
Okay.
And I
I
just
just
got,
wanted to make sure I hadn't lost them or misplaced them.
I just got those either last Thursday or Friday.
And just to update you as well, Joyce and I are sitting down with Joyce with her scalpel, me with my hatchet on Friday, and then we'll get these recommendations out to everybody on Monday.
My goal is that before I leave on Friday, you'll get them, but they may be in a handwritten form versus typed at that point.
That's fine.
So, if there's no other comments, I'm going to go on to item F, consider an act on code of ethics implementation. And we have the plan here, and I presented it last time. I don't think anyone has any comments.
You want to make a motion to approve it?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
Now, any addition, comments, questions? If not, all in favor of adopting the implementation plan as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Gwen, you had,
I was just gonna ask a quick question about, I noticed that the code of ethics is not posted on the website under our list of ordinances. Is it going to be, or is it gonna be posted somewhere else? Because-
No, we can certainly post it there. I think that just slipped through the cracks with Heidi posting.
no, we can, yep, not a problem.
Some of it got lost with Nancy leaving,
No.
unfortunately,
But so, no big deal.
because the
We'll get
assistant
that
town clerk normally takes care of all
up. Those
of the ordinances.
postings. And consider an act on budget transfers and
Appropriation
yeah,
requests.
we got one.
You have two. You have one in
Oh,
the
in the back.
assessor's office, $140 from office operating to regular payroll. This is basically, at this point in time, the person that prepared the budget a year ago miscalculated by $140, basically to pay for the year.
The remaining, that position's for remaining part of the year,
Correct.
okay? And
The second one is for the town clerk. It's $14,071 from other payroll to regular payroll. If you remember the discussion that Nancy was grandfathered with benefits, so she was paid out of regular payroll. The new assistant town clerk is no longer grandfathered and so has limited benefits, so she is now paid out of other payroll. So this is just,
wait a minute, this is
She
done
has it
right.
reversed.
Reverse.
She has it
This is reverse.
She has it
This
reversed.
is reversed.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't crazy.
And I was reading it, and I said, wait a minute, that's because it should go from
the
regular
numbers
payroll
Her
to...
numbers are right, her descriptions are wrong.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
going from regular payroll
Regular
to
to
other.
Correct.
That's a good time. We'll recess for a minute.
You have to
Yes.
sign it because you're changing the two categories?
No, because only the description is wrong. The numbers are correct. So
but the-
I will change it on this form for you to act on.
For prior to us signing it,
And I
yeah.
would, I think we should act on it, but I think you should ask her to initial the change.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. Okay,
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
All in favor of approving the transfer of $140 from office operating to regular payroll in the assessor's budget, and $1,471 from regular payroll to other payroll in the town clerk's budget.
14,000.
14,071.
That was wishful thinking, I'm sorry. $14,071 from regular payroll to other payroll. Thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay, motion carries. Sorry about that. And subcommittee reports. Properties and facilities. Since Richard brought it up in the last meeting, any updates on the barn this year? I mean, a lot of work is being done back at the shops, I know, but
They're actually doing a lot of work on site. The new roof is on the front section that we call the milk shed. The new front is on the milk shed. They've done a lot of the sistering of beams in the basement and in the upper area. The restoration of the cupola is about 60 or 70% complete, if not more. And they've actually been doing a lot of assembly of things that they could do at their own shop and then bringing them to the barn. So there's a lot of things there that are being stored that, once the weather breaks, we can get out there and work
and those
on it.
walls will go up.
Well, right now,
Are you
we're
still
we're
waiting
waiting, we're waiting for DECD, the State Historic Preservation Office, to come back to us. They indicated to the architect that they wanted to see us reuse as much of the siding as possible. And the architect got back to them sometime mid to late last week rather, and told them that most of the siding that we had taken down was damaged, either damaged due to age or damaged due to the fire, and probably was not reusable and had been disposed of. Literally, when they took it down, they threw it in the dumpster. So we're waiting for them to come back to say yes. And then there's also an issue with the interior door between, as you walk in the main back door, there was an interior door to the workroom, which is the room where the fire started. That interior door does not meet current code because of its size. So when Jim was up doing an inspection, he brought that to everyone's attention, and the architects have reworked that, and the new door is back to the State Historic Preservation Office for approval. It'll be a larger door, but in the same style,
Right.
proportions as the previous door. So
Hey, I have a
we
question
just
for
have to
Sandy.
wait for them to say yes
I
before
have
we
a question
can.
for Sandy.
Yep.
Sandy, when we go to paint the barn, do they have to approve it? The society has to approve the painting?
They've already approved the color.
Oh, okay, what color is it? Better be red.
It's whatever that
It's
red is
red.
that's
Oh,
up
okay,
there.
all right.
Red.
All right.
If you look at the front of the barn, over where the milking parlor is, which is
Yep.
that long low.
Yep.
When we did the roof a couple of years ago, that area, that particular color, that particular area was painted, and that color was approved then. So now when we're putting the new stuff up, that's being painted at their shop with the same color. It's a Benjamin Moore something or other.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to know the real name of the color, I suppose I
that's
can.
all right.
That's all right,
No.
that's all right.
And did they get that support beam issue resolved?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
That was the one that, okay, good.
And the area that's being worked on now, the milk shed, is that going to be open to the public to use when that's done? Because it doesn't have the floor, the same floor
Well,
weight-bearing
well,
issue that the upper
It doesn't have, that particular
higher.
area is, it's actually in two sections. One section has a cement floor, and that's the section where you'd walk in with, where the white door was. And then there's a wall between those two sections, and then there's another, the second section actually has a dirt floor. And there will be doors on the front of that, but we certainly hope we can open that to the public and just stake the doors open or do something to
And,
keep the doors open.
and that particular section, there is quite a bit of damage there, not necessarily from the fire.
So it looks like, particularly with the way the weather's been, March should be a good, in March, I would assume that they can really get in there and do some major work. So by, I would say, the end of April, we should see some significant changes. I mean,
Well, there's been significant
No,
changes.
Yeah.
already.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Well, we've been fortunate with the weather. I mean, no one anticipated they'd be able to work on this much of it.
Yeah. And the other thing is the scaffolding did leave the site yesterday.
Oh, really? Why? Good. So how the hell are they getting up to the cupola?
Through ladders on the outside, all of the interior work is
Oh,
done.
they're doing, okay, okay.
They did the original restoration totally from the outside as well, so.
Anybody, I'm sorry.
The only other thing under this to talk about is the LEED certification for Bolton High School. We did hear back 2 weeks ago from the group, and they had further questions on one particular area. The architects went back to the sub that did it, it was BBH, for the items. BBH, all of this project was already in the archives, so they are pulling it from the archives and trying to look up the information to be able to reply. So we don't have a resubmittal yet.
But that's not bad.
We're down to one item.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, that's a
we're
good thing.
gaining.
That's a really good
We're
thing.
gaining.
Yeah.
So that's, when you said that you heard 2 weeks ago from the group, is that it was called Green Institute or
Yes,
something
yes,
like that?
yes.
Is that
They
a
sent it back
state
to the
agency?
architect. I'm sorry?
Is that a state agency?
I'm not sure if they're straight, a state agency or if they're a quasi through the state somehow for the certifications.
But those are some major step forwards. To get this data out would be in really good shape moving into this budget, the end of this budget season. We'll see when, it'll be this year. Yes,
I'm hopeful.
knocking on wood and everything, or we'll shake
There we go.
some serious heads. On revenue sources, well, nothing new. Nothing new from the legislature on any reduction in revenue sources at this stage of the game, but stay tuned. On my report, obviously on the CAPA, we You all got a copy of the proposal here that we'll be dealing with at our next meeting.
Where was that?
It's right here.
Is that in the?
It's basically, you had discussed this at your last budget
that
workshop.
Yeah, so was it in the packet, or?
Yeah, it's
It's this, yes, right at the, should be at the very
Next to
end.
the last
Here it is,
page.
yeah.
All right, got it.
Yeah. That's why I should have simply said the last page. So we can go over it in detail. But really, what we've done is separate the capital building improvement project at the center school out, and the rest of it is actually, other than the curtain at the Bolton Center School, the rest of it really are items that we've been funding on an annual basis, the first three, and the rest are items. Some shared, some not. But again, if you have any real questions on it, we can discuss it on next Tuesday night. Economic development, we're still getting some inquiries on the Lindale Stand properties. People still looking at it, various people looking at all different aspects of it. You know, it's a lot of land, and for someone to put that kind of investment in, it's going to take a while before they feel comfortable with whatever project they're looking at. It's something they can do, but we don't have a definitive project coming forward yet at this stage. Just a number of inquiries. The staff has been trying to, provide them. Jim and Patrice have been really working closely. Anyone that comes in, we will meet with anybody at any time, thing to expedite. So that's where that one is. And if you've driven by Syndat, you know they're closed in.
They put up a great-looking fence last week.
Yes, a nice privacy fence, so you can't quite see all the action going on down there, but they're closed in, and they're really moving at a great pace. So glad for them, and hoping for a summertime ribbon cutting there.
One quick question, if we could back up.
Sure, back up.
The capital plan, you said we're going to discuss this again next meeting? Okay. Only because I spoke to the fire marshal about the curtain, so I'll bring you up to speed on that next
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah, that's right, because, we may have to do some tweaking on this too, because we'll have the debt service to think about, so.
Okay, yeah, I'll just
There's a
wait
lot
till
of-
next
yeah.
meeting to talk about that.
Good.
Okay.
The next Gen CT pathways to Yukon. This is, CROG has hired a group that is doing a study of the corridors 195 and 44, and also would include 31, those major roadways that feed up to the University of Connecticut. With the University of Connecticut expansion, and they now have opened up a new roadway that connects Route 44 down to the North Campus. That would be their new tech park that they're developing down there. Part of this study group is to look at that whole area, and they're looking at impacts, economic, physical impacts of the community, roadways, and transportation, the whole concept. And he asked for if the study group from each of the communities impacted would have 2 staff members and a business person from the community that would meet with them. This is their study is an 18-month project that would meet them 4 times as a resource people for them. And I had appointed Joyce and Patrice as our staff person, and Jim Cropley, who has a business on 44, and Jim, his son, is now running most of it has time, he said he would be willing to serve as a business person, so have him on that. No one's met yet, they're just in the process of setting up, but this kind of looking at that whole, it's really I would hope that they're looking at the economic benefits that the right traffic flow will be to and from. Part of it, too, is a good thing, and part of it, it also looks at alternative transportation, busways, bus and bike transportation, all inclusive. So our studies getting done at this time just really would fall in a good time that too can go to these guys as well as other folks.
And Patrice and I and Jim will report back to certainly planning and zoning in this board, what information we can. But I don't know, we're supposed to meet in March, but we don't know, it's only 4 meetings over the 18 months.
So that's all that we know so far, and I'm surprised that,
4 meetings every 18 months, or do
no,
they
no,
hope to-
no,
meetings
over
over
the 18
Okay,
months.
okay, it's like, whoa.
No, they have 18, their study timeframe was 18 months.
Okay.
So over that period, it was stated that they would be meeting 4 times. What I don't know, and we haven't, in any of their literature on this thing, it says, what about the other side of Yukon, the Wyndham side? That's a different crowd, so that's, who knows if they're thinking that way. But if you've ever been up there, most of the traffic comes from either 44, 195, or 31 to 44. That's the
And
main,
that's why Tolland is a piece of this.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Because they had the concerns, and it was actually Tolland, Coventry, and Bolton that pushed to be a part of this.
It impacts in Mansfield, obviously.
Yes, yes.
I noticed in the paper the other day, there was an article about how the Mansfield Town Council had authorized negotiations with Yukon to sell the E.O. Smith property. So it's possible they'll be relocating E.O. Smith somewhere else in Mansfield.
They're
And
looking
I'm
to.
sure that will have an impact on this study.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that, and
They're just
Building a
growing.
new-
They're
building a
just
new-
growing.
building an E.O. Smith new school at this time is going to cost a bloody fortune.
Especially with the expansions they've done over the past 40 years to that school.
Right.
With what used to be soccer fields is now football and all kinds of other things that have been changed there. That's,
Well, there's many things that they share right now, too, because some of their athletics make use of the Mansfield Community Center as
right
well.
there.
This is right there, yeah.
So,
So relocating is going to be an expensive proposition.
that was an interesting high school to go to.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I went to E.O. Smith. Back then, we were actually, I had a Yukon ID back then as a high school student because we were under the umbrella of the University of Connecticut, and it was quite an opportunity.
Yeah.
We got to use the field houses and all, everything. It was like being a little college. You were like a little brother to the college kind of thing. And we had all the the students there, student teachers and everything. It was an interesting place.
Yeah, that's one of the draws of E.O. Smith.
But if they move away, that draw's going to be gone.
Exactly right, exactly right.
And
So,
actually-
good luck with them.
Some of the draws and some of the negatives will go away too.
Well, yeah.
Because
True,
after
true.
being a graduate of there, I saw the other side of it as well, so.
All right.
But that was a long time ago. It must have changed a little bit in that amount of
Right,
time.
right. Yeah, that's central heat now.
And indoor plumbing.
Yeah, right.
It was a lot longer than I wanted to admit to.
All right. administrative officers?
Mine will be very brief. Expressway properties, DOT continues to work on getting those deeds together for us. We will need to decide, the selectmen will, as to, do you want to try to move forward with that town meeting prior to actually receiving the deed to discontinue the road now to give you that power afterwards, or do you want to wait and take a chance that you can do it at that point? And that's all based on Barger's prior opinions. The second item, personnel, as discussed, we'd made the offer for the finance director's position, the chief financial officer. We still are doing the checks. I'm hoping to have the information for your meeting next Tuesday night to act on that. If we don't, then we'll be seeking a different resolution. The custodian's position, interviews are in process, so we'll be moving on those. The assessor, we are still in discussions with another town at this point. Heidi's position, we have a temporary coverage at this point in time, so we'll be, waiting a little bit before we advertise for that, until some of the other dust settles in some of these other offices.
That's where we are on that, and reason why we're postponing that finance officer's position, we should have everything back so we can formally do it at our next, which would be next Tuesday's meeting. It's on the agenda. It'll be on the agenda. So if you all can, that's why we're moving it out.
So on the assessor's position, we're talking about sharing this position with another town?
Or-
Yes, as we
Well,
had talked about.
contracting it from another town, correct.
Yes.
But this is in preliminary discussions with them, so we haven't haven't heard back yet whether they're willing to do it.
They're open to the idea.
But we don't have the
But
details enough to.
We haven't progressed beyond open to the idea yet.
It's on their court right now, which would allow us to maintain our present person, but in a different structure.
Oh, okay.
That's our goal, okay? We should have said that in the beginning, but that's our goal. And that's
Appointments, we do not have any.
I'll move to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody? Second. All in favor?
All right.